Allora, buongiorno a tutti, un cordiale saluto da parte mia in qualità di presidente di Castellinaria, poi ci sarà anche il direttore artistico che ci porterà un suo saluto. Un momento particolare questo di una conferenza, di un momento di scambio, di incontro tra vari professionisti svizzeri e anche internazionali. Sono dei momenti che noi abbiamo creato in particolare a seguito della pandemia, perché si sono create queste modalità di comunicazione, ci sarà anche un collegamento via web, quindi come dire, questi temi che accomunano varie realtà di festival nei vari paesi. E questa è un'opportunità di incontro, di crescita, di scambio. Io ringrazio la direttrice operativa Cristiana Giaccardi perché questa è stata una sua iniziativa, è stata una sua idea e grazie ai contatti che è riuscita e le relazioni che è riuscita ad intessere con altri professionisti possiamo proporre dei momenti di conferenza come quello di oggi e come quello che ci sarà poi domani pomeriggio. Oggi in questa occasione è anche bello ricordare quello che è la collaborazione nell'ambito del progetto della Casa Pantrovà che ci vede direttamente coinvolti, quindi una collaborazione di Castellinaria anche con la città di Lugano, oltre che naturalmente nell'ambito del Long Lake Festival. Abbiamo anche come ospite, naturalmente oltre alla coordinatrice Giulia Tal, anche coproduttore e produttore che questa sera ci accompagnerà nella proiezione in occasione del Castello d'Onore. Quindi io vi ringrazio per la vostra partecipazione, per il vostro coinvolgimento, ringrazio Cristiana per la sua iniziativa e per l'impegno nell'organizzare questi momenti di incontro e passo volentieri la parola al nostro direttore artistico che sicuramente saprà darci una lettura molto più artistica della mia. Prego Giancarlo.
I speak in English so they can understand me from the web. Someone was in Cannes this year, I know. And there was a documentary, Room 999. 40 years ago, there was another documentary, Room 666, by Wim Wenders. And 40 years after, they collected the director that were in Cannes in 2022 to talk about the cinema. And one of them said, now the platform don't read the script. They analyze them. And if at page 3 doesn't happen nothing of extreme, they don't go on to read. It was true, unfortunately. Well, here, in this cinema, we can find young people, even children, that are able to wait. They look at Avengers, but they are also ready to wait. And it's important to talk about the cinema for youngsters that doesn't go running after the mainstream, but is thinking about something different. Because it's not true that they are not interested in something different. If no one proposes them something different, they don't ask for it. Well, so to having in Castellinaria, thanks again to Cristiana, a meeting like this is really important, and thank to you to be here.
Thank you very much, Giancarlo and Flavia. I switched to English too because I wanted to warmly welcome Sandra Moser, Julia Thal, and Stefan Jäger for this meeting. We will have later Fleur Knoppers from the Netherlands in Zoom. And we do this meeting in English because our goal is really to have those moments of sharing knowledge about the cinema for young people. And the goal is to make it available for everybody later on this year on YouTube and on the platform. So thank you again. And if anybody needs translation, Elisabetta is available. If you want to ask questions in Italian, she's available to translate, or otherwise from English to Italian. Thank you very much, and please, Julia.
Thank you very much, Cristiana, for the introduction. I would like to quickly introduce a bit more the two guests we have here. Sandra Moser is sitting here today as a screenwriter of the project that won the Casa Pantrova. But Sandra works in the field of theater and film. She's also an actress, and she works also as an actor's coach, screenwriter and director. And Stefan is sitting here today as her producer at Telfilm. Stefan also is a director and screenwriter himself. 2 years ago, his film Monte Verita had its premiere at the Locarno Film Festival. Stefan also works as a tutor at the University of the Arts in Zurich, where he's responsible of the screenwriting department. I will introduce Fleur later on when she joins us on Zoom. So I think we will start with the presentation that Sandra will give us about the Casa Pantrova.
Yes, thank you very much, Julia. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming and being here. Thanks to Castellinaria Festival for the invitation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to present the project which I worked on in Casa Pantrova. It's called Rosanna, Yaris and the Other World. And I'm going to tell you about the story and about why I want to tell this story for a young audience. I'm also going to talk about the development steps. And of course, I will share what I did in beautiful Carona in August. So, to the story, I just first read out to you the logline of the film, which is for 8-year-old Rosanna, a circus is the key to a magical world that helps her get over the illness and the death of her little brother. So maybe I have to say the state of the project is that we are in financing now. So I mainly will talk about the script, about screenwriting. 8-year-old Rosanna lives with her family in a modest flat. She lives with Yaris and parents, Shaina and Gabriel. And when she looks out of her window, she just sees a piece of wasteland, which means over there, the buildings have been torn down and the new building site hasn't been set up yet. So this is a wonderful playground, an adventurous playground for the children. Of course, it's forbidden to go over there, but they go there in secret. So we get to know this, let's say, working class family, and one day Rosanna's life turns upside down, and this is when her brother Yaris falls out of his bed in the middle of the night and he has been taken to hospital. And there she overhears, by listening to the adults, they find out that something has been growing in his body which should not be there. She doesn't really understand what that means, but what she understands is that her parents are absolutely absorbed by the concern for her little brother. So she's both fascinated and intimidated by the hospital. She doesn't dare to get close to Yari's bed. It takes some time, but then when she goes, she sees he looks quite normal. He's a bit pale, maybe, and he is more tired than usually. And she starts to play with him, and she starts to read out a fairy tale to him. It's the fairy tale of the 7 enchanted brothers who are enchanted into swans and who are saved by their sister. So at home, she's now alone in the room, which she normally shares with Yaris. And she starts to feel lonely because her parents are so often at the hospital. That's when she looks out of the window and she sees that on the waste, on this fallow ground, there is a circus putting up a tent. And she's going like, what are these kind of freaky people up to over there? But also she remembers beautiful moments she spent on this wasteland with Yaris, and they flew back to her in her memories in a like daydreamy way. She starts to ask questions about the illness of Yaris to her parents, but she doesn't get the right answers. But what she snatches from the conversations the adults have is that Yaris is in big danger, and she decides to save him. So she tries to save him in her very special way. This seems a bit strange to the adults, and they involve the teachers, they involve a psychologist. For her, it absolutely makes sense what she does. She stops talking, she stops going to school, and she gradually makes friends with the artists. And she's very inspired by them because they do things that the other adults say are impossible. They can do magic, and they can fly, and they don't give up if something doesn't work right away. So she takes her inspiration and she goes to the hospital. She performs magic there to Yaris, and she like kidnaps him and brings him to the circus. That's where he blossoms, and he really enjoys this adventure, but however, only shortly after his condition gets worse. And in the in-between world of the circus, the realities merge, and Rosanna learns to let go of her brother, but also she learns that imagination and friendship and love can have healing powers one way or another. So that's mainly the story of the film. And the reason why I would love to tell this story to a young audience is quite personal. One of my 2 now adult children had an operation when he was very young, and there was found a growth. And me as a mother, I was like overwhelmed. I was feeling numb, and I really focused on the ill child and nearly forgot that I had also a healthy one. So later, when our lives became more calm again, I asked myself, how is it for a sibling when the life is turned upside down by the illness of a brother or a sister? And so that's what we are exploring in this story. And because I think that challenges or so-called strokes of faith don't stop in front of children just because they say, oh, they're too young. No, children also live strokes of faith, and I think that's why we as storytellers and filmmakers should address to these challenges, to make children, to encourage them and to make them feel less lonely with their concerns. And so that's why I would love to tell this story. Yes, maybe something also about diversity. When I was a young child in Swiss films, I did never see a role model who looked the way I did. So that's what I would like to change. So the mother, Shahina, she's a person of color. The father, Gabriel, is a secondo. And so I would like to point out diversity as normality in my story. And Rosanna is very playful, she's very curious, and she demands from the adults to accompany her in her feelings. So maybe she could become a new role model then. We try to tell the story from the perspective, from this child-like perspective of Rosanna. And for me, it's very important that the young audience is being taken as equals. And so the way we tell the story is we take the young audience by the hand, but there can be questions who are not closed, who stay open, which I hope encourages the young audience to discuss the matter to each other and to discuss it also with adults. So I'm going to tell a little bit about the phases of development of the story. I was very happy to be able to develop the first draft in Zurich University of Arts, where I profited from mentoring and also from roundtables where I was able to discuss the content with colleagues. And I think it is, for me as a writer, it was very important to discuss the content from a very early stage on with other dramaturgs and also other colleague authors. Then in a second phase, I profited from the SSA grant, Société des Suisses Auteurs, which gave me a grant so that I could spend a lot of time writing. That's when I also found Telfilm to work together, or they found me. And also, of course, the grant and the possibility to go to Corona was very important for my developing the script. So when I went to Corona, I already had a solid version of the draft, and I did more cuts on the story because it was too long. So this is a very interesting question for me. How long should a children's film be? This would be something I would like to hear from you as well. What do you think? Is it 75 minutes? Can it be 90 minutes or even 2 hours? So I merged locations, I merged also characters, I sharpened them in order to have the essence of the script. In Corona, I also worked with the DOP already, and we have been working a lot on the visual concept, and we have also started to work on a breakdown which means we went through every scene of the script and analyzed it in matter or in relation to the visual concept. And we already started to do a rough shot list, which helps me as a writer to really get down on the ground, to really think very visually and really think what is important and what do I want to tell, what could I cut or where do I have to give more time in the script. So, and last but not least, in Corona, I had the possibility to meet Dr. Pierluigi Brazzola, which is the head of the pediatric hospital, pediatric, oh, it's such a difficult word to say, oncology in Bellinzona, and I had a conversation with him, a long conversation, which was very impressive to me, because I could ask him, well, I could do like a fact check on my script, on my screenplay, but also he gave me an insight in the daily life of families who have a child in hospital. This was very impressive because he told me that children, even if they are very ill, they fool around a lot. And sometimes one sibling is dying in one room and just beside the other sibling is playing. So this is very, this is life and death very close together. Yeah, I think I'll finish here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sandra. The topic of our conference today is producing and distributing content for a young audience. So I'm going to ask a few questions to Stefan. If there are any questions from the audience anytime, just join me in asking questions. Producing a children's film in Switzerland nowadays is still quite courageous, if it's not based on a best-selling book, I would say. Why did you pick up this project?
And there's so little best-selling books for children in Switzerland, so that's the reason why it's time to start with originally created content for children, I think. So the time couldn't be better. And of course, now it's going to be, I think, on a film political level, it will be very interesting how the subsidy, how the Bundesamt für Kultur, how the Zürich Filmstiftung, the Swiss Television, they all say it's important that we create children's content, but now we have to get the proof so that they really are willing, because it's not cheap, as you all know. Working with children means you have lots of course, for good reasons, regulations, how many hours you're allowed to shoot a day, and so on and so on. And therefore, I think we have to have the courage to give it a try.
Where do you see the biggest risks with this production?
It's really the financing, you know. If we don't get, the budget is about 3 million Swiss francs. If we don't get it, we cannot keep the amount of shooting days. And we also have the concept of reducing the daily hours also for the grown-up crew, because we said this is an effort we should make, because if you can work with a child only for 3-4 hours a day, then why should you go on working like 10, 11, 12 hours? So we try to reduce the amount of the shooting schedule to all the people to 70 or 80%. And this is also new to us, but it also means we have to close the financing part, because otherwise it's gonna start again like, where can you be cheaper and so on. And we want to enhance the quality of the script that is here. So
And this project was always planned as a only Swiss production. Why, or has it changed meanwhile?
Not yet, because 3 millions is, I would say, it's kind of a level that's still possible to finance totally in Switzerland. But it's a risk, and therefore, as soon as you go into a co-production, it takes at least 1 or 2 years more of financing, and the budget will be bigger. So we still keep it in mind as a second step. If we really should fail in Switzerland, like then, of course, we don't put it off the table, but also because it will be in Swiss German, shot in Swiss German. So therefore, we try to finance it out of Switzerland.
Are you looking for any other international partners, or are you going to take part in some co-production markets? How do you see that?
We just approached a world sales. We still waiting for the answer, and the script came to us in a state which is very, very strong. It was so good developed, you know. It already got the SSR grant. It got an award in Berlin. Even with the Swiss-German version of the script, it got an award. And so basically what we did when the script came to us, we were talking with Sandra about how to shorten it, because it was even longer these days, and therefore we were happy after Corona to see that now it's really on a base where we think it was the right time to go into production, into pre-production. So therefore we skipped those possibilities in this case.
You have already found a distributor for the project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or have a letter of intent at least. How easy or difficult was it to find a distributor in Switzerland?
I was surprised how easy it was, because it's Film Copy, and they started like around 5 years ago to have at least 1 or 2 movies, especially for children, a year. And so we came with the right time. They're also the distributor of Ingeborg Bachmann, the film that is going to be shown this evening. We produced it, so we have a very good relation, and we like their approach, especially also to children's content. And so they read the script within a week, and they were totally convinced that even though the theme is tough, and this was something we talked a lot with Sandra about, the humor in it is very strong, you know. So the first 20 minutes you don't think about that it could be about a child who is going to die. And even in the end, I think children who will leave the cinema, they don't want to talk about this bitter fact that really a child had to die, but about the life in it, the humorous, the powerful, the poetic life that we could see in the script already, and we were happy that Film Copy has seen that too.
And how do you think is this film going to find its audience? Have you talked with Film Copy about their marketing strategy, about approaches?
Mm-hmm. They do it really very focused on each subject they have. When they had a movie about a little girl robbing a bank, they had a complete different concept of doing marketing, you know. And here they think we will work a lot with also hospitals, because of course that's, as Sandra said, you know, that as a parent I know little about how would it be if this would happen to my child. And so this is one strategy. So we also will work, of course, with Solothurnschule, wie heißt das? Kinokultur in der Schule. And yeah, and as soon as I think we have the first rushes, we will share them with Film Copy, because I think they will help us a lot to find different ways of getting our audience hooked. Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience to this project, to Stefan or Sandra? Yes, please.
Thank you. If it's possible, can I ask you which which were, I mean, who was the main contributors to the production of this movie, like a sponsor? And secondly, what was the thing that made you decide that it was the movie that you wanted to sponsor, I mean, to produce?
So the first answer we cannot answer, the first question we cannot answer yet because we just started financing. So now in about 2 weeks we will get answer from the OFG, from the Bundesamt für Kultur, which is, as we have known by experience with other projects, right now it's very difficult because they have overbooked their budget during Corona, so it's very tough to get the fundings the first time when applying. We'll see. We'll still hope for, and by the answer of the Bundesamt für Kultur, we will know whether at all the project is in a good shape to be financed if we apply for the second time. We will apply for Swiss television because they are looking for children's content. And so therefore we are very hopeful that they will join this project. We are working with the Zurich Filmstiftung, but only in January. And also there they are very open-minded. I think therefore the package is really important, you know. And the second question I love to answer because this is one of the rare scripts. Whenever I read it, it really touches me. So I think this is a good sign, and even when because I've known the script already when Sandra was at the university developing it. I wasn't her mentor, but of course every now and then I had to read it, and every time I was impressed by the impact it had on me reading it. As I've said, I'm rarely touched so deeply by a script, and even listening to her now touches me because I think you can tell that Sandra has a personal approach to it, that this has a lot to do with her own experience.
I absolutely agree with you. I was reading the script last week and I was always thinking I want to show this film to my son who has 8 years, and he's so interested in the topic of death and dying and always asks me questions, and just to look at this film with him would be great and discuss all those questions. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, you said you brought this point up. Did you test it with children, with the age group, and how was the reaction to the screenplay?
I haven't tested it with a big group or so. This would be very nice, but I have just told the story to children, younger children, like 8 to 10. So yeah, they listened to me, but I didn't evaluate it. So I cannot really answer this question. Yeah. But they seemed to be interested in the story, and they laughed. And they laughed when she kidnaps him and all the adventurous stuff, and they love the funny characters. Like there is a nurse who is called Grumpy Doris, and her stomach always grumbles because she doesn't have time to eat because she's working so much and cannot make any pauses. And there is a lot of situation comic also which they reacted to, but it was also the way how I told it probably. So but that I would love to test it. So my son he's 19 now, and he's working in a practicum. I don't know the English word. Anyway.
Internship.
Yes. And maybe I could go to his class.
Any more questions from the audience?
And one big challenge will be to convince the adults, to go into a movie which is about a child who will die. So this is, I think that's something that we discussed with the distributor as well. It's for example, how will the trailer be? Will you tell that it's about death? How strong will you put the theme on the, how strong will you focus on this theme? Therefore, we really have to be very careful, because if everybody will leave the cinema and say, it's about the movie about the kid who dies, I think then there will be no audience.
Yeah, that's true.
It's also difficult for us in Castellinaria when we choose films, we select films for young audience. We know that the adults decide if they will come to the cinema or not. And that's a very interesting topic, because sometimes we also have difficult films, and we can see how difficult it can be to propose the film to teachers and adults, etc. So we share this experience.
I have an interesting experience with Monte Verita. Basically, it's not a children's movie, obviously, but we had a teenager class, like 16 years and on, and they were forced by their teacher, of course, because she loves the Monte Verita and she loved the movie, and so she said, "Kids, come on!" It was like 100 kids in a cinema somewhere in close to Bern, and in the end, they wouldn't stop talking about the movie. They were so impressed, and they were so angry that on their Facebook, on their Twitter channels, they just get the ads about the new James Bond, about the Avengers and so on. They say, how come that we never hear about movies like this? Because these are the movies they really would love, they would prefer to see. And so, yeah, I was struck, because I never would have expected them to even watch through the whole movie, because it's a slow movie. There's, nature. Maybe you have seen it, and I was deeply touched. And there was this love story between the two women, which is like on a very subtle way. And even in the end, like after 2 hours, two girls came to me and said they were so deeply touched by this possibility of a friendship between women. They've never seen something like that in cinema before. And so therefore we will see how, of course, you cannot convince a 6, 7, 8 years old, 10 years old to convince their parents to watch a movie about a child dying. But somehow I think this movie, if it's going to be as I imagine it, and as I, Sandra, know, I think, it will make its way, absolutely. And even the turnaround at the festivals, which will be a huge booster. And I think this will make it worse to keep believing in it.
There is one more question there. No? Oh, sorry. Speaking about difficult subjects, I think it would be the right time to introduce Fleur, or get her to join the Zoom. Fleur Knoppers works as a producer at the Rotterdam-based company Volia Films since 2009. They produce feature films, documentaries, animations for the national and international market, mainly as international co-productions. Previously, Fleur worked for well-known documentary festivals such as ITFA or Sheffield. And Totem is the first film for a young audience that Volia has produced. And we would like to speak with Fleur about her experience in producing and distributing the film. I'm really happy, Fleur, that you can be with us today. We know each other for quite a while. Fleur and I did the International Producers Pooling Program of Focal together in 2019 and developed our projects together for 1 year. So I was actually a little bit part of this development process, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about the development of this film for those who don't know anything.
Yeah, we developed this project for quite a long time. It is an original idea. It was not based on an existing novel or IP. or anything like that. It was a director who thought of it, and he came to us, which I had to look up actually. That was in 2014, and we spent around 5 years developing the projects. So that was actually quite a long time, and we did in the development. We didn't really do scripts workshops. We felt we had a good team with the director Sander, who was also writing, and a script writer Bastian Tichler. But we did do a different script pitching sessions. So, and there we got a lot of feedback, because for us it was, from the beginning, we knew that we wanted to set up the production as an international co-production. So for us, it was important also to get feedback from outside of the Netherlands. So we worked with that. And we worked also in development with a script coach, consultant, script analyst, let's say. So we had that input as well during writing. Yeah, and so I think that's how we did the development. It was a long process, I think, because it was an original story, so we really had to build it from scratch, which takes a long time. But then also to finance the development, there's lots of steps that you take with the film fund. So this also takes time, so that adds to it, let's say. So it really took like a full 5 years to get to the start of financing the project.
And why was it clear for you that you wanted to do this as an international co-production?
Well, I probably not all the way from the beginning, but quite early on, I would say, because we knew the ambition of the director. I still think, because the beginning, the idea was that there was this girl, Alma, who was going to go on this journey, and with her porcupine. This was always there from the beginning. So, and we knew that if we wanted to make that look good, that it would not be a small budget. And I think, other than like what Stefan was just describing, that what you can raise within Switzerland as a budget, I don't think you can raise that within the Netherlands. So we knew quite early on that we would have to go outside of the Netherlands to be able to raise the budget that we needed to tell this story.
And how was the co-production set up? Which countries were involved? Who took which part in the production?
We in the film, in the end, it's a co-production between the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Germany. But that's not how we started out in the beginning, because for us from the Netherlands, it is like language-wise, but also in terms of putting a crew together, cast as well. It's more natural to work with Belgium. So that was how we started with first. We tried to put that together. But it turned out it was very difficult to get Belgium on board for a family movie. So we tried both in Flanders and in Wallonie on the French side. And I think it was like we were almost there, but not enough. And then we knew we wanted to work with Germany. This we were already working on. And then, so the alternative was to work with Luxembourg, and they were very enthusiastic about the project. And the film was also very well received there afterwards. It won 2 audience awards in Luxembourg as well. So that was a good match in the end.
I somehow remember that you were talking about Norway as a co-production partner at some point as well. Did I remember this wrong? Or were there other options for co-producing countries?
It is possible that we had, that I don't remember exactly, to be honest, because that's some time ago, but it's possible that we had that as like a plan B or plan C, because we do have like different options. Also because we had, in development, we were supported by media. So in our application to media, of course, we had our different like plan A, B, and C for the financing strategies. So it's very possible that we had Norway, but that would have been possible, but I mean, this is much preferred because it's closer by, so it's easier when there's less distance.
And how did the funds in the Netherlands react to the project or the television in the financing process?
Yeah, with the film fund, it had a bit ups and downs. There was definitely enthusiasm, but I think it was also a bit difficult to convince them of a story that is not like based on an existing story. And because this is a story also that has like magical elements on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is very much rooted in a reality, in a political reality that maybe sometimes evokes a bit of how do you say, of resistance somehow, or people sometimes felt like, could this really happen in reality? And so that required quite some, talking and convincing in moments during the development. I think it's maybe because people expect more a very realistic story. See, something more, say, documentary-like, maybe even, and because we have this porcupine, and because like the magical thinking of Ama is manifests itself in the story, that is something that people had to get used to, let's say. So yeah, so that was sometimes a bit of an uphill struggle. And then as it comes to television, that took a lot of time actually in the Netherlands. We had the German television on board first, and only very late, yeah, quite close to production, we had Dutch television on board. So that was, yeah, a very long process. But the nice thing is that we found a broadcaster in the end that was very enthusiastic about the project, and they've been very supportive. So it worked out in the end, but it took a very long time to get them there. Yeah.
I remember that you did a pre-casting for this film, which I found very interesting because I didn't know that before, that someone would do a pre-casting before the actual casting. So why did you do that, and how?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I saw the pre-casting, it had different reasons. Like the main reason, I think, was that we needed to have something visual, which relates to what I was saying before, to convince people of this story and the specific setup of it. So we felt that we needed more than just the script and the vision of the director to convince people. So we really felt like we needed, visual presentation. So so that's why we decided to do, on the one hand, a casting, so to find a girl so that you have a face with the project, when you're presenting it. And it would also give Sander the opportunity to already work with a young actress, and it would give him input in the further writing process. So that was one element of it. And then we put that together with a sort of like, say, a mock-up of the porcupine. So we worked with a post-production facility, Planet X, in Amsterdam, and they they generated a sort of porcupine, and it didn't look as it looks in the end, but it was as what we could make at that moment with the means we had and how we envisioned it at that moment. And that was all generated in the computer. And of course, in the end, we worked with an animatronic, so that also makes it in the final porcupine looks much different. But so then we had images where you could see Ama and the porcupine together, and then on location in Rotterdam. That was also very important, that you could see how because I think for many people, they couldn't imagine these three elements together and see how that would work, because it's a bit, different from what people have seen before. So, and once we had these images, we could really see a difference when we were presenting it, that people were like, it's like that. So that was very helpful to have done that.
But do I get it right? This wasn't the girl later on to play the main character?
Yeah, that's right. It was like Sander, the director, he was very enthusiastic about her. So for a long time, we were hoping that she could also do the role, but then the financing took longer than we had hoped. And by the time that we were starting shooting, yeah, she was just a little bit too old. So we decided to not go with her and do another casting round where we still kept her in the back of our minds, of course, like she was on the table as an option. But yeah, then we felt that the bit younger actresses would work better. Yeah.
How easy or difficult is it to shoot with children in the Netherlands? Are there many obstacles?
Yeah, it is. Well, I suppose, like in any country, it's not like it requires extra attention. Apart from the fact, of course, that you have the regulations that are there that you have to comply with. So no, but I think, yeah, for sure, it's not as easy as if you don't have kids in the cast. In this case, of course, that was maybe the biggest challenge, the fact that our main character was a girl of an age where the restrictions are still quite serious as to how many hours she can work in a day and how many days and how many resting days have to be in between the shooting days, and the weekends are very limited. So that was, I think, the biggest challenge in a way, to make the schedule work around that. And then apart from that, you have to provide that there is somebody on the set who is with her, that she's being taken to the set and back. You have to take care of the parents also, of course, and communicate with them. So it requires extra work. I think you have to work also with crew that has experience with that. That's important. And of course, in the Netherlands, there's a lot of children's films being made, family movies. So there is enough crew that has that experience. And also, for example, like we had a DOP who had experience shooting, films with children, and also is a person who is able to communicate well with them. So, you have to think of all these elements so that comes together, and that you create an environment for the young actors that is, where they feel at ease. And what we had in the case of Totem is that the first days for Amani Jean, who was playing Ama, it was quite tough for her. I think it was maybe a bit more overwhelming than she had expected. To be on a set with so many people, all the equipment and everything together. So she was, I think, really a bit overwhelmed. So in the first days, it was, lots of people in the crew who were not supposed to, be working with her or taking care of her, were just jumping in to, to help her to find her way in in acting in such a setup, let's say. So there was also, like, the makeup lady was a very important person in that, for example, to in between when she had a break, just to be with her and to do games or to talk to her, and just to put her at ease. Yeah.
How old was she at the time of the shooting?
She was in the last year of elementary school, so she was 12.
12, okay.
Yeah.
Before we start talking more about distribution, I would like to open up to the public again, to the audience. Are there any questions to Fleur already now?
I'm sorry, thank you. As producers, are you involved in the script also, or not at all?
We have been very involved. So we read, like, more or less all the drafts, and we give feedback on that. What Julia was saying before, we were in this, it was not really a script development workshop. It was a more general development workshop, I suppose, the IPPP from Focal. So we worked on many different elements, but it was also a lot about the story. So we're very involved in that.
For which age was it planned, this film? And for which age is in the public really now? Because here it was kids about 12 until 15 or even 16, I think.
You mean that in the festival?
No, when you planned the film, you
What was your main target audience?
Yeah, target audience.
Yeah, the age group. Yeah, yeah. We had lots of discussions about that, or talks, and yeah, we felt that we wanted to have in the beginning. We felt that we wanted to have the age group like quite as wide as possible, because we thought then you can like make the audience as big as possible, let's say, and reach as many kids as possible. And then we understood it's better to really to target at a smaller age group. I'm still not exactly sure about that. I would say that the film, like now we targeted it when we released it between 8 and 12. But we had a rating from 6 in the Netherlands. And I think with like what I understood so far is like with kids films, it's not so easy to reach your audience, and you reach it in different ways. So you can either reach it through the parents or the grandparents that would take their children to see a film like this. So then you really targeting the adults, and to then with the idea that they bring the kids. But you can also try to target the kids themselves, of course. So and then it is much more important that you are yeah, that it doesn't look too childish for the older kids, and that it doesn't look too scary for the younger ones. So it's quite a sort of balancing act, I suppose, that you have to do. So yeah, but I suppose that in the end, the 8 to 12 sort of makes sense. So that's in the Netherlands, at least, that's the last 3 years of elementary school. So I think that's really the age where kids can be interested in a story like this, and when it's not like too scary or too serious. And I think from when they are in high school, it starts to be, they can still watch a story like this and be interested, but for them, I think it doesn't feel cool. See, so then there's something, there's a sort of a changeover when they start to be interested in different kinds of stories and different kinds of films. So I think naturally that's the 8 to 12-year-olds are it's the clearest group to target.
Are there any more questions? When we did IPPP, we met a guy from a World Sales, and he said to us that you can do any film you would like, also serious topics. You just need to know what your goal is with the film. What do you want to accomplish? And what was your strategy there? What did you want to accomplish with this film?
Yeah, I think the main goal was from the beginning, and I don't think it essentially changed. And that was really the idea that Sander came with when he approached us, is that he wanted to make a film that is that addresses a serious topic, that gives kids like a means to discuss that kind of serious topic, but to package it in like an adventure and like a story that is also fun to watch. See, so that you have the mix of those two. That was the idea. And I remember also that when in the beginning, when we were talking with Sander about, you know, the setup of the project, he was comparing it to that you take your kid to see a piece in the theater, or a classic maybe in the theater, or maybe even to an opera, that it is something like that. See, that is, you don't do it very often, but that the times that you see something like that, it stays with you, and it really creates like a lasting memory. And I think that has always been our guideline, let's say, in developing and making the film.
Are there any questions? How easy was it to find partners for the film, like a World Sale or distributors in different countries?
Yeah, it was not super easy to find partners. I think we had the distributor on board first, in the Netherlands, and then the sales agents, and then in the end we changed distributor. And yeah, so but that was not super early on. I think the sales also, we didn't want to have them on board very early on. Yeah, it was not super easy. But I also think that, like, because sometimes with films that are not targeted at a young audience, it can be more difficult, because for like family movies, there is certain sales agents that you can go to that are specialized in that kind of film. So then it's actually it's much clearer who you target. So in that sense, it's not that difficult. But what we do notice actually, sorry, just to add, is that for the sales agent, for example, when they came on board, they were very enthusiastic about the project, so that was all fine. But now, because it took a bit longer to finance and to make the film, by now the landscape also has changed. Of course, there was Corona also in between that had a big influence. So there's actually less opportunity now for feature films than there was before for sales.
And since Germany is on board as a co-producer, is there a German version of the film? Is it planned to bring it also to cinemas in Germany?
Yeah, there is a German dubbed version, and there was a pre-release of the film in Germany already, but now it's done like a whole tour of festivals in Germany. I mean, worldwide, but in Germany there's been quite some in recent weeks even. And they have the release continued after the festival run, so that will be picked up in spring next year.
And I also remember from the IPPP that they always said children's films don't travel. How do you see that with this film?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to explain. Maybe they said they don't travel because of the language barrier, because you have to film for a young audience. They cannot read subtitles, so you're very limited in you can only show it to people with the same language. Yeah, now Fleur, you can answer.
Yeah,
sorry.
I think, yeah, exactly. I mean, there is, in Germany, there's the dubbed version. So that goes for, like now recently they were doing, it's being screened in a festival in Lebanon. So they're making their own language version there now. So it's either subtitled or dubbed. So no, I mean, it's been going to lots of different festivals so far. Like for sales, what I said, we have to see, the sales agent is working on it. So there's a few, but not something big yet. So yeah, no, I remember the warning, but yeah, I think it turned out it's not impossible. So yeah, I think if you can have subtitles or a dubbed version, that the audiences are maybe more flexible than people think. I don't know.
It's really interesting about the Lebanese. So they made a dubbed version only for the festival. Did I understand this right?
No. I think this is they're making subtitles now.
Oh, subtitles. Okay.
Yeah,
I got it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. No. I don't think that is a dub that they're making. Yeah, and I also remember actually in development that the sales agents we were talking to said, like, well, for a story like this with the main actress who is black, you can forget about the Asian market. That's never going to happen. I mean, we don't have a sale yet, but it was screening in a festival in South Korea, for example. So I think with all these kind of sort of like rules that are, I mean, they're based on experience. I can understand that, but there's always exceptions. So I don't think that we should just stick by that, just like that.
Absolutely. Can you tell us something about the festival strategy for the film?
Well, the festival strategy, we decided to try to find somebody who is like, who has a network in festivals for children's content. And that we found actually, it's a former director of a festival, so Renate Zila is her name. And we managed to work with her, so she's really representing the film. So we don't have the sales agent who does that, but there's somebody separately who works on the festivals. And which is, yeah, it's fantastic. It works very well. It's been screened at almost 30 festivals now. It has won around 14 or 15 awards at festival as well, so it's appreciated. We get like good feedback, and there's school screenings at festivals, and there's festivals that make educational material to go with the film, to have a Q&A after with the kids. So it seems to to have a, how do you say, to land well, or to have a good response. Yeah, so that's really nice.
There is a question, Bettina.
Did you do special things to get the people in the cinema? Or just not only flyers to announce the film 1 month, 2 months before?
Basically the marketing concept.
Yeah.
That was my next question. What was the marketing concept for the film?
To get really the people to the cinema. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have a like very specific marketing concept, because I think if it would have been based on an existing book, for example, then there would have been a very clear means to use in the marketing, let's say. So then you have a well-known name or book that kids already know that you can use in a campaign. So we didn't have that. What we did have, luckily, is that the film was selected for the main children's film festival in the Netherlands, Cinekids, and it was selected as the opening film for the festival. So that generated a lot of attention. There is in the Netherlands also a daily news program specifically for young audience. And they were there and they paid attention to the film, and that it was the opening film of the festival. That's a big thing here. So that's something that lots of kids see, and they see on television. It's on prime time for kids. So that really helped. And then we launched or released the film immediately after the Cinekid Festival. So that, I think you could say that in the Netherlands, at least, that was the strategy for the release. We didn't have a bigger marketing campaign than that, other than just the, how do you say, the classic approach of the distributor.
And how was the film, like how many numbers, what was the box office in the Netherlands with the film? Approximately, maybe you don't know the exact numbers.
The box office was not so fantastic. We were hoping for 20 to 25,000, and we got stuck a bit, less than half of that, which, according to the distributor, was also very much related to the fact that we were releasing a bit too close after COVID. So distributors were still struggling with films that had been shelved and then still had to be released. So there was a lot of titles coming out at the time. So I don't know, if it's hard to see if we would have had the release a bit later on, if it would have done better. I do know that lots of titles that are not like the big ones or have big actors in them are struggling a lot. So that is very unfortunate, but we hope that, I mean, the broadcast on television is still happening. We're still hoping that we can have after that a deal with a streamer, so that there will still be bigger audience for the film. But in the theaters in the Netherlands, it's not been so easy.
Yeah. Are there any more questions, Sandra?
I have a question. The secondary material you talked about, is it provided by you as a producer, or is it provided by the festivals themselves? For the classes or for the
it is. It was provided by the Cinekid Festival. They made educational material because they have like their screenings for schools during the festival and after as well. So, and then each festival, or not each, but like some festivals do this because they have a specific part of their program with screenings for schools. So like we received educational material from Czech Republic from a festival, for example, the other day. So I think they make it from scratch, but I also think that sometimes festivals, they exchange or they build on from already existing material. Yeah, but no, we don't make this material as producers ourselves.
And does Volja now have any other children's films in development? Are you going to continue in this area?
Yeah, I was working on a project that we actually took part in the script lab at Cinekids. That was maybe 3 years ago already. But during that workshop, because that is based on the story of the writer-director herself, so that's her personal story and of her kid. And she discovered actually that she doesn't want to target only on a young audience. So then in the end, we're making a film for an adult audience. It's not going to be a family movie. It's not like Totem was the first family movie that we did. So it's not our specialty, let's say. So if a project comes along, then we would love to do another one. I am actually also looking for a book to adapt. We don't have something coming out very soon.
Thank you very much, Fleur. I think if there are no other questions, then I would close it here slowly.
One last thing.
Yeah.
I really loved the movie, Fleur. It's amazing. It's brilliant, and I was deeply touched. So congratulations. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
I agree.
Thank you very much. I say hello to Fleur. Perhaps you see me now.
Yeah.
Thank you again for being with us in this sustainable way. Thank you, Sandra, Julia, and Stefan. And to the public, grazie mille di essere venuti, e se volete bere un bicchiere insieme a noi siete invitati a un aperitivo.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Fleur.
Bye.